Okay. I'm going to walk you through my arcade and how I have it set up, the layout, how it works, all of that. So I'll try to keep this quick, but I doubt that's going to be very possible. Okay, so my name is Angelo, and I'm going to walk you through my arcade setup. I posted a video of my home theater, and there was a lot of questions about the arcade and what I'm using and how I built it and all that. So I'm just going to do a walkthrough here, show you how it's set up, and talk about how it works. So this is a program called LaunchBox. The pretty stuff that we're looking at now is called BigBox, and behind the scenes is a whole bunch of emulators and little scripts and things like that that make this all work. So I'm just going to walk you through what it looks like, how you interact with it, and basically the cool stuff. So I have this set up in a few different layers. So right now we're on collections. Another layer is top 100. So if you go into each one of these categories, they're called, you're going to get more and more specific and drill down. So I'll go through all these. Another is arcade. So you see at the bottom left, I have 4,626 different arcade games. Computers, so these are all of your computer consoles, everything from old school DOS games to Windows games, true new PC gaming. Consoles, these are the old school, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation, all of that. Developers, so I also have this broken out by the developers. If I only want to play Capcom games, I would come into this section and find my Capcom games. So now that would break it out by, system and stuff. Same with genre. If I know I want to play a shoot 'em up, I'll come into here and grab a shoot 'em up. Hacks. So I have an entire category dedicated to hacked games. And hack games are pretty fun. Sometimes it's graphic packs, so old school games that have better graphics. Sometimes it's translation packs if you want to play a Japanese game but in English. Other times it's, like Donkey Kong, except, different characters inside of it. Handhelds, this is your Game Boy, your Game Gear, Game Boy Advance, all of those systems. Pinball is pinball, so I do have virtual pinball in here. And now we're back to collections. So let's start with consoles. So if we come into consoles, I'll walk through all of my consoles. I'm not going to read them all off because there's a ton in here. So if we walk through consoles, so here's Nintendo. Every single console has its own intro video and its own, nice graphics here. And I have these set up alphabetically and in chronological release order. So we'll watch a few of these. Most of my media in this arcade, not this one, this is from HyperPie. Most of my media in this arcade is from Retro Humanoid. You can find him on YouTube, you can find him in the LaunchBox forums. He makes incredible stuff. This is his theme, a lot of the artwork is his. It really comes out well. So we'll go down in order here. So we'll start with Nintendo, then we move to Super Nintendo. I have Virtual Boy. All of these systems are complete. So I have every single game ever for Nintendo 64. Same thing for GameCube, same thing for Wii. And each one of these systems has their own emulator, has their own media, their own games. And I'm running all of this on 2 massive external hard drives. Wii U, and now you have some of the Japanese Nintendo systems that weren't released in America. So the Famicom, this is their version of Nintendo. We had NES, they had Famicom. Super Famicom is our Super Nintendo. So let me go through this. I'll hover over each one pretty quickly. Otherwise this will take 2.5 years. Nintendo 64 Double D, this is a cool one. This is called Nintendo 64 Disk Drive. So Nintendo was experimenting with a disc-based system after Nintendo 64. They ultimately ditched it. There are a few games, they do work, but they ultimately ditched this and ended up going with the GameCube. Panasonic 3DO, I actually love this system. It's trash. It didn't do well, but I do love this system. There's a lot of fun games. And again, a lot of these systems you've probably never heard of, never played. and frankly, a lot of them aren't even worth playing, but there are some sleepers in here that are pretty fun. So I'll speed this up. So now we're in the Segas. So this is the original Sega, old school Sega. Then we hit Sega Master System, which was their equal with NES. And a lot of these systems, again, there's the Japanese version and the American version. Sega Genesis, this is my all-time favorite system. Of every system I have ever owned, Sega Genesis is my all-time favorite. We have Sega 32X. This was an add-on to the Sega Genesis. I had this. There's only a few games for it. I only had a few games, but this is also a ton of fun. We hit the Sega CD, the Sega Saturn, and then the Sega Dreamcast, which is close to the Sega Genesis for my favorite system of all time, but not quite. But Virtua Tennis on the Dreamcast is one of the best games you'll ever play in your life. All right, so let's speed this up because we will be here for a month. I'm getting too excited. Now we hit the Sonys. We have PlayStation, PlayStation 2, and PlayStation 3. So I do have PlayStation 3 emulated. It's a little finicky. The problem with some of these newer systems, same with the Wii U, the problem with some of these newer systems is you need to, it loads the entire game as you're playing it. So it, it takes a long time to load these games up. And it plays a little jerky until it's all loaded entirely. Then we have the full Atari systems, all the old school Atari systems. And then even when they attempted to compete with the Segas and the Nintendos in the modern era with Jaguar and Jaguar CD. So we will fly through the rest of these so you can get a look. Most of these didn't do well or didn't make their way to America. TurboGrafx and SuperGrafx are pretty sweet, actually. And then we're back to Nintendo. So let's jump into Super Nintendo, because I know everybody loves that. And now when I come into a system, whether I'm in arcade or consoles, when I come into a system, I can pick how I want to view my games, either by play mode, all of my games, by genre, and then I could have favorites set up as well. But let's just go into all games. And now this is how I work through every one of the games. So this is in alphabetical order. This is every single Super Nintendo game that was ever released in America. And as we work down, on the right-hand side, we have the logo art, and then in the box there, we have, the video of the game and gameplay. So let's work our way through. This is the full catalog. I can't show every single game here, but this is every game released in the US. Aladdin was an awesome one. So let's go into Aladdin. Once I select this game, now we have, a different view and more options. So you see all these options on the right. I can play this online with people. I can look at the images. We can pull up the manual. But let's hit play. And now this is actually going to load the game, and we're going to jump into it. So we have our loading screen. And these loading screens change for every single game. I happen to pick Aladdin, so this doesn't have a custom loading screen, but a lot of these games do. So now when we come into the game, we have a bezel. So, obviously these games were 4x3, but I have a massive 16:9 screen, so we have bezels on each side to fill up that space. And now we're playing old school Aladdin. So this is going to work exactly as how it worked on the Super Nintendo. So I'm controlling them and it's doing everything it's supposed to do. I'm not really paying attention here, but and now I'm playing old school video games. So now if I have a few options here. So if I pause it, I can pause it regular with the controller as you expect, but I can also hit P on my keyboard. And what that's doing, and you can see on the bottom left, this is going to take a minute. This is loading the custom pause screens that we have set up. And these custom pause screens are really, really cool. And we'll give this a minute, and then I'll show you. Okay, so we've come into this custom pause screen. So again, using all this software, we can do a lot of things that we couldn't have done before. So in these custom pause screens, like see, I have different sections going across the top. We have artwork, magazines, music, the stats, so all of my gameplay stats, how long I've played it, all that stuff, and then back to artwork. Now if I come down, I can see all of the system artwork. So this is not specific to Aladdin, this is just specific to the fact that we're playing Super Nintendo. Here's the marquee. So I do have 2 televisions in my home theater, and you can watch that other video to see. And the second smallest screen is the marquee. So right now on that screen, we're seeing this image, and it'll change depending on what I'm playing. We have all of the box art, the cart art, screenshots from inside the game, and then now we can move to statistics. But magazines is really cool. So these are all of the magazines for this system as well as for this game. And this is where we can have the manuals, if we have the manuals built out. So we can have the cheat codes in here, and we can go through every single one of these, page by page, and read these magazines, check out the cheat codes, and do all of that stuff. It's really, really cool how this is set up. So now let's leave our pause menu, and we're back into the game. What's also cool about that pause menu, which I didn't show, is we could do custom pauses. So if you're in a part in a game, especially these old school games, where there is not a save point, and there's not sort of a, you can't just save it and come back tomorrow and finish where you're at, we can do custom pauses and basically just freeze it exactly where it is, come back in a day, a week, a month, and pick up there. So let's exit this. We get our exit screen. This is custom per system, so this is the Super Nintendo exit screen. Let's back all the way out. So we were in Super Nintendo. Let's go to, I don't know. Let's find it. Well, we'll go into Sega Genesis. We'll go into all games. So same setup. I have my favorites, my genre. You see it's a custom theme here. Everything is themed towards that system. But let's go into all games. And we're going to get the exact same experience, except now it looks like Sega Genesis. We have the blue, we have Sonic, and it's the exact same thing. Every single Sega Genesis game ever released. If I want to go down, so I'm going down one by one, but if I want to move across, jump to a letter, I can do that as well. And now we're just jumping through all these letters. Let's go to S for Sonic. Come on. Okay. And now we'll let these images load. And this is every single game ever made for Sega Genesis. So let's back out again. Let's go to a different category. So everything I just walked through exists everywhere in here. So if we go to Handhelds, it's the same thing. So I'll walk through some of these. We have PopCap games. These are actually games on like Android tablets and stuff, like Plants vs. Zombies, things like that. We have the Game Gear catalog, so every single Game Gear game ever. We have a bunch of other systems that you probably never heard of, like Neo Geo. We have the full PSP catalog, and the PSP is actually a pretty good system. And what's really nice about that, actually, if I come into the PSP catalog, what we can do is I've had all of these games upscaled. So these are PSP games, but I can go ahead and play one, and it'll be full HD, take up the whole screen, and it's not going to be weird and small. But let's go find ourselves Game Boy, because everybody loves old school Game Boy. But we have all the Game Boys: Color, Advance, DS, 3DS. So let's go into old school Game Boy. Same exact setup. And now here's every single Game Boy game ever. So you're getting the idea here of how this works. And let's jump into a Game Boy game, actually. Let's see, what's a good Game Boy game? What did we play growing up? Battletoads. All right, let's jump into Battletoads. We'll play it. So here we have a custom loading screen for the Game Boy specifically and Battletoads. And now here's our bezel. So we saw on the Super Nintendo, It was just two big, nice graphics on the side, but the Game Boy is a much smaller screen. So now here's our Game Boy bezel. So this is a 75-inch TV, and it's crystal clear. It looks fantastic. And now I'm playing Battletoads on the Game Boy. So super nerdy, super fun. I get caught up playing these games. So let's exit this. We have our custom game over. And now we're back. So let's back out, pick up the pace here, because I'm sure you get the idea. Let's go to collections, because collections is a ton of fun. So what collections is this is every single game, or every single version of a game. So NBA Jam is a good example. So if we come into NBA Jam, what we're going to see here is every single NBA Jam game that I have. So this is NBA Jam on the Sega Genesis. If you look at the bottom left, it tells you the system. This is NBA Jam for the Sega CD. This is NBA Jam for the Game Gear. So this is every single version of NBA Jam. So if we come in and say, you know what, I want to play NBA Jam or Blitz or whatever it is, I just don't know for what system or what version, then we can come in here. So let me click through a bunch of these. There's a ton of these collections. So Simpsons is a ton of fun. So this collection is actually the SNES Classic. So it's all of those games, and that has its own theme and everything as well. So let's go to Street Fighter, because that's my favorite game series. So we come to Street Fighter. There's 134 different Street Fighter games on here, and this is the breakdown of those games by system. So here's the Sega Saturn version of Street Fighter. Here's the MAME version of Street Fighter. The arcade version of Street Fighter. Every single version of Street Fighter, which is really exciting. So let's go into the original Street Fighter. This is for the arcade. So if we go into an arcade game, we have our loading screen. And now this is an arcade game, like a true arcade game. Stand-up arcade, put quarters in, and we just have it emulated on our on my arcade here. We'll give it a minute. Okay, so now we're playing the arcade version of Street Fighter. So you see the credits moving? I have a button on my controller that says put in quarters. So this is the true arcade version of the original Street Fighter, not even Street Fighter 2. And this is really what we end up doing most on this arcade. So let's exit here. And this is what we end up doing most on the arcade is, you know, friends and family come over and we just end up playing these type arcade games. All the Ninja Turtle games. Nothing's more fun than a Ninja Turtle game. So actually let's back out of here. We can jump into the Ninja Turtle category. So this is every single Ninja Turtle game for every single system. This is the Game Boy Advance Ninja Turtles. This is Final Burn Alpha, which is a different arcade version. This is also Final Burn Alpha. This is the original Ninja Turtles on NES. So it's, you know, it's very easy to come in here and play any version that you want on any system. So this is the GameCube version. And what we actually end up doing the most, let me scroll up. I'll go fast, so you're gonna have to pause if you want to see all these because there are a ton. But we end up doing the most if I search by category is actually Mario Party. Because lots of times we end up wanting to play Mario Party. It's a good fun game with a bunch of people. And now it's like, well, which Mario Party? Do we want the N64? Do we want the GameCube? And that's where we can come in here, take a look at the different Mario parties and make a decision from there. So let's back out of collections. Top 100, this is a custom, so I haven't finished building this out, but these are my top 100 games. So I've only added 2 right now, but you know, I manually add these so that it's as clean as I want it. So let's now take a look. We'll go into arcade. So we have arcade broken out a bunch of different ways. So arcade games, you know, when you grow up, you go to the arcade, you start throwing quarters in, you start playing. But there's different developers, there's different systems, they have different looks and feels and all of that. So Final Burn Alpha, we have the Irem Classics, the Konami Classics. So these are all of the old school Konami games that you love. Let's back out and finish going through these. Midway Classics, Namco Classics. Then we have the Namco systems, the shooting systems, the car driving systems. So the 22 are the larger car driving systems. This is like where you would do the Wave Runner. So we have all of those systems built out. Every single one of these has their own custom controls, their own custom layouts. All the Sega arcade games. I mean, this is every single arcade game that you can think of, and they're all fully emulated. So let's just go to Capcom Classics. And now we come in here, we just work our way down the list. These are the classic Capcom games that everybody loves and remembers and is familiar with. Every single game has its own logo, its own breakdown. So if we want to play the Punisher, click on Punisher, and now we can jump in and play. So I think you get the idea. Again, this is using LaunchBox, BigBox. This theme is the Retro Humanoids theme. Most of these videos are his, but if you go to the LaunchBox website or LaunchBox forums, you could find your own media, your own breakdown. But basically, I have every system, every arcade game, even if we go into the computer stuff, which I literally have never played. But if we come into here, we can go through all of the Apple games, Commodore 64. I mean, there's thousands of games here. There's thousands of games per system. Even if we go into DOS, it's every single MS-DOS game ever, which is a massive amount of space on here. So I actually have a separate build for DOS as well. But these are my favorite DOS games that I have set up here. Battle Chess, Descent, Doom. So if we wanted to play old school Doom on the keyboard, the way that, you know, we all played it growing up, I would jump into here and we would have my keyboard right next to me and we would go ahead and play. So you get the idea of how this is broken out. If you have any questions or anything like that, let me know. I'm happy to help. You know, it took forever to build and now we just turn it on and play it. It could probably use some cleaning up. Every time there's an update with LaunchBox, something happens. Like right now, my arcade theme is not as pretty as it should be, so I gotta figure out why. But, you know, overall, we have every game for every system, and the funny part is, we end up playing 10, right? We play Mario Kart, Mario Party, Ninja Turtles, and Street Fighter, basically. But if you have any questions, let me know. I have a ton of other videos on this, specific to this, so, you know, like, subscribe, and if there's anything else you want to see, comment down below. So thanks for the watch.